Questions 6 through 11. Listen to part of a lecture in a zoology class. The class is studying animal defenses.
One of the most important relationships between different animal species is the predator-prey interaction in which predators eat prey. If you're a predator, you have to catch prey to survive. If you're a prey species, your survival depends on avoiding predators. This is why prey species have evolved various physical and behavioral defenses that enable them to elude predators and avoid being eaten. Some defenses are passive, such as hiding. Some defenses are active, such as fleeing or running away. Fleeing is the most direct anti-predator response, but it requires the animal to expend energy. A rabbit has to use a lot of energy to run away from a lynx. Many prey species avoid expending too much energy by escaping into a shelter. Several prey species have some sort of vocalization, an alarm call, to announce the presence of a predator. The alarm call often triggers a behavioral defense called mobbing. During a mobbing incident, the prey species turns the tables and attacks the predator. Yes?
I've seen this happen. There's an owl living in the woods near my house, and one time I heard all the little songbirds making a racket, like they were upset about something. That's when I noticed the owl up in the tree. The little birds were scolding the owl, and some of them flew up and buzzed it from behind. Lots of other birds flew in to help out. Pretty soon, the owl flew away, and the little birds chased it till it was out of sight.
That's a wonderful example of mobbing. It's an active defense, and the intent of the prey is to encourage the enemy to move on to another area, and in that case, it succeeded. As for passive defenses, one adaptation is defensive coloration. An example of this is camouflage, which makes prey difficult to spot against a background of similar color. All a camouflaged animal has to do is to remain still to avoid being seen. Think of a green insect on a green leaf, or a spotted fish against a pebbled creek bed. Camouflage is probably the most effective passive defense and requires no energy expenditure.
Excuse me, Professor Howard.
Yes?
But don't predators also use camouflage? I was thinking of lions and tigers and how they blend into their environment when they hunt for prey.
Good examples. Some predators do use camouflage as they lie in wait for prey to come by. The advantage of coloration goes both ways. But not even the best camouflage is effective all the time. Sometimes the benefit wears off. Moths that camouflage themselves to match a leaf stand a good chance of not being seen by moth-eating birds. Unless, of course, the moths become so populous that a bird is likely to come across one by accident. Once the bird learns the moth's identity, it has a search image for it, and the moth's disguise is useless. Looking like a leaf is then no advantage because the bird will start pecking at leaves in the hope that they are moths, and it will keep doing it as long as a sufficient number do turn out to be moths. There's another passive defense I want to talk about, and that's warning coloration. Some prey species are brightly colored, and there's evidence that predators are more cautious in dealing with bright color patterns in potential prey. This is probably because a lot of poisonous or bad-tasting animals are brightly colored, for example with black and yellow or black and red stripes. Some birds have an instinctive tendency to avoid eating insects with warning coloration. Young warblers leave wasps alone because the birds recognize the danger in the wasp's black and yellow stripes. However, there is evidence showing that some bird species occasionally feed on wasps, perhaps after learning to cope with their poison.
Number 6. Which of the following best describes the organization of the lecture? Number 7. Why does the professor say this?
A rabbit has to use a lot of energy to run away from a lynx.
Number 8. What happens during a mobbing incident? Number 9. According to the professor, why is camouflage such an effective defense? Number 10. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Moths that camouflage themselves to match a leaf stand a good chance of not being seen by moth-eating birds, unless, of course, the moths become so populous that a bird is likely to come across one by accident. Once the bird learns the moth's identity, it has a search image for it, and the moth's disguise is useless.
Why does the professor say this?
Once the bird learns the moth's identity, it has a search image for it, and the moth's disguise is useless.
Number 11. What does the professor imply when she says this?
Young warblers leave wasps alone because the birds recognize the danger in the wasp's black and yellow stripes. However, there is evidence showing that some bird species occasionally feed on wasps, perhaps after learning to cope with their poison.